if you're to bring any issue in Uganda and say, what does the policy say, and they read it,
yes,
you say, wow, if these are implemented, Uganda will be at its peak. Every industry, if you talk about an industry, when it's going to be set up, KCCA or NEMA, what they require an environment impact assessment report. You know, and all these issues of air, how you're going to manage, mitigate all these, by paper, on paper, you must give them to these authorities.
They need to see them.
They need to see them.
There. Yes.
Actually, they'll even come and make arrests for not having them. You put money, you do what. But what happens, enforcing what is on paper becomes a problem. Corruption, who owns what. And remember, most of these pollutants have an economic impact.
Yes.
When today you're talking about old cars, last time, actually this month, URA came up and said, you know, people, we want by come 1st July, all cars that are 9 years from the date of manufacturing should not enter Uganda. Because like Mollen rightly explained, the science behind these old engines, yes, polluting, that those cars should not enter Uganda. I want to tell you, they were bashed by Kasita, they were bashed by many people in this business. Many voices came in, and I'm very sure this may not see the light of day come 1st July because of the pressure they have gotten. Said, no, let's make more consultations, let's do this. You get it? Because it has an impact of money. It is business. When you go to Kawempe, the factories that are there, they're still factories. Some are very funny. Some, you know, you see the emissions flying everywhere. We have the Environment Protection Police. Under Uganda Police, it is a unit. Are you aware of that? That there is a specific unit for environment protection. When you ask them, you get it. So, Uganda have the policies. And I may not want to disturb Ugandans reading through, but enforcement is a problem, more so where there is something regarding money. Look at sound pollution. It is a law in Uganda.
Yes.
But I don't know where. Many people today will tell you that some are about to leave their houses to go deep in the village and build there. Because this was once an area that people built homes to sleep. Now because of development, urbanization, someone comes, puts a bar there, puts a nightclub there. All night they can't sleep. But have a clear law on sound pollution. When is it enforced? I think it was last enforced about 11 years back. And that was based on political issues.
Yes.
Democratic Party, the likes of Namboses by then, had something, they left loudspeakers. And the police used that law to break into their offices and consider and say there was sound pollution. So when you have laws and you don't enforce them, or when there is so much corruption, at the end of the day, Ugandans, we shall get those respiratory diseases. Ugandans, it will be more hot than it is. Many are bound to sleep without putting on anything because of these impacts.
And speaking of the economic impacts, actually, according to that same report of the World Air Quality Report back in 2020, they did say in sub-Saharan Africa, Uganda inclusive, when it comes to air pollution, it is more deadly and more costly when it comes to certain, in comparison to other problems being unsafe water, other problems being recently HIV/AIDS, and they said it's more deadly. And this is mainly because the policies and deliberate resolutions that are supposed to be able to fight this air pollution are not fully established. Which brings me to the next question, Mollen. What are we looking at? What are we putting at risk? Some of the impacts that all these will cause, both in the short term and the long term. Maybe, Robert, you could take us through the short term, but Mollen, just to go through the long term effects, what are we looking at? Where is Uganda standing at this?
Well, if you look at long-term effects of pollution, you even factor in the fact that there are going to be kids that are born in a polluted city. So these are actually taking on what could be chronic for them.
Which actually is already happening in South Africa, because there are certain cities where the air is actually bad for specific groups of people. They are not accepted to be in these cities.
Yeah, and it's a danger. You're advised not to give birth in such polluted areas, because because you're looking at the fact that children could actually get chronic diseases just from being born in a polluted area. So I think the long-term effect would be still on the respiratory system, but which also brings in the health sector. We could be spending a lot of money as a country in treating these diseases that are, of course, related to the health. But you look into the fact that when these reports come out, I think we hardly take them serious. And more of the effects, we've talked about the effects, the risks around it, but there are solutions to this. And I think one that did come out right now is the fact that they gave out that report, which also brings in a solution of having to give alerts. Because one way to actually tackle pollution in any city is make sure you're giving out alerts whenever measures are gotten beyond threshold. And this is what the report was highlighting. But I'll table it to you guys. How many times have we had these reports? Because these are supposed to be on quarterly basis. The moment you detect that there are a lot of levels in terms of, parts per notions, the measurement of this air pollutants around you, then an alert should be issued out. But we are also seeing this coming once in a year or once in actually 5 years. So I think that is the one thing that we should be looking at, to regularly issue air quality alerts, especially when the pollution are expected to impact the health of citizens. But also one thing that should also be done, and I think as a country we've not been doing, is air quality assessment. Yes, there are, all these people are deployed around the country to be finding out, but we should be mainly focusing on the major cities, because this is where we have all the chaos. Kampala is the capital city. But what happened to all the policies that should, limit some of these industries to be built in the city? Because this is where we're getting much more of the pollutants that actually get into our respiratory system. But also, when we look into this issue of having cars, or old cars on the road, I think we need to look into improvement in the urban transit system, also to reduce the traffic on the roads, but also regulate which cars are coming into the city. Okay. Yes, you could have old cars in the country, but maybe they shouldn't be allowed in the city, because now you're looking at a situation where you're going to be factoring in a lot. You have the traffic contributing, you have of course, for the road dust, then you have industries around it bringing in more gases, and then at the same time you have all these old cars into the city. So I think the most...
So a combination of a number of factors there become a problem.
Which will create a hotspot, and you'll find Kampala being, it's no wonder it's on top of having more measures.
But also,
yes.
My sister, I want to just remind Ugandans the biggest challenge we have. One time, here in a country called Uganda, in the Pearl of Africa, our Ministry of Health and stakeholders came up with a law banning public smoking. You remember that?
Yes.
Banning public smoking. But we lack consistency. One time they wake up, now they impound those taking shisha. You know shisha?
Yes.
You go
consistency
to
from the government side, or from the
implementers? I want to look at it as government.
Or even the people, the individuals themselves.
The next day, today, how many people do we see smoke in public places? Even where there is no smoking.
If you go to all these, everyone is smoking from everywhere.
Smoking from everywhere.
It seems like they have rights to do the
whatever,
smoking.
save so. But I think our government has to take certain things serious. Most of those that have a long time effect. Because pollution, the scientists, the Mollens, will come up with these reports.
Yes.
They are good at, and these guys, climate change, they make noise and they can make noise.
Yes.
But as long as this is landing on deaf ears, at the end of the day we shall suffer. We've just ended COP, 26. But I'm even shocked that some of the big countries that were party to this are failing on their promises.
Yes.
So we need to take air pollution very serious, because it may not have an immediate effect. It's not like an accident,
yes,
that people have died 26 in one day. But at the end of the day, these long time impact and effects are going to affect us. So we should see this in days to come, in years to come, as a problem, and give it the due diligence. I feel environment protection, these all things are not something we are looking at as an issue, most of the African continent.
Well, if we don't really get to the implementation stage, everything will just get stuck onto the paper. So at the end of the day, implementation is more necessary. And again, it's advisable that we look at this problem from the long term, because eventually you may not face the consequences, but your children, your grandchildren will be the ones to feel it or get the effects out of all this air pollution. Well, that's it from today's newsreel, but also just remind you of our poll question, which definitely we want to find out from you. What or how do you think road accidents can be regulated or minimized in Uganda? How can road accidents be regulated or minimized in Uganda? You can use the numbers on your screen, and the hashtag on Twitter is UBCGMU to give us your thoughts. We're getting into the papers to see what made the headlines: Daily Monitor, New Vision, and of course the Daily Nation. Good morning.
World Cup in the desert, the first one in the Middle East, the first to be held at the end of the year. That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals, out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change, and his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings, with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning once again, and thank you for joining us for the press review this morning. Starting off with the Daily Monitor, we're looking at a day of grief as 28 killed in accidents, and the pictures are really not exactly very enticing, very sad. And it was a Black Wednesday indeed, where they talk about many Ugandans sent into a somber mood as 4 separate motor accidents, 3 in western and 1 in eastern part of the country, claimed 28 lives ahead of a busy week of students returning to school. Now you can catch the story on pages 3, 4 and 5, and there are some pictures of some of the lives that we did lose, and giving you some of the statistics. Worst accidents in the past 20 years, so you don't really want to miss out on that. But still in more news, the National Drug Authority lists drugs with adverse side effects, and again court tells LCs to forget about salary. Wow. And then Central Bank now plans to make loans really expensive. And again, in one of the main stories, Janet to schools, increase fees and you will face the music. Now this is a story I believe parents would really want to read, and even the teachers. Catch it on page 6 of the Daily Monitor this morning, so grab yourself a copy. Now moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor, National Drug Authority, of course, lists drugs, vaccines with adverse side effects. The story is full on in detail, and they give you quite a figure there of 2,253. Now, these are the number of cases of COVID-19 vaccines side effects registered between April and September 2021. More details, of course, follow up in the story. And taking you back in time, today in history, Buganda pays ransom to rescue county chief. Who is that we're talking about? Well, more reason for you to get the paper. And again, still also in history today, ragtag Mexican army defeats powerful French. Well, grab yourself this copy and catch up on all these stories, but also taking a look at the New Vision this morning.
Well, in the New Vision 4 this morning, some construction projects put on hold. Well, new directives on school cutting costs also right there, as Mrs. Janet Museveni, the Minister of Education and Sports, has also advised. Well, it's right there in big headlines, but also the big picture right there, they're showing you over 20 killed in a morning accident, the Christmas morning accidents. Now, of course, they're showing you the bus that fell down and also the wreckage of the link bus that was involved in an accident. We'll get more on that story on page 8 of the New Vision. In the New Vision 4 this morning, Parliament opens up fish more trade. Well, that is also detailed right there on page 6 of the New Vision for this morning. And also New Vision looks at guidelines of mushrooming fuel stations, which has been released. Now there is more on page 4 of the New Vision for today. Shillings 60 billion for 3 new universities. Which universities are being highlighted? You can get more of the detailed story on page 3 of the New Vision for this morning. Heading over to page 2, they give you a picture right there of some of the veterans preparing to carry out a surgery on a dog as we celebrate Uganda, as Uganda celebrates the World Veterinary Day. Today in history, that is 2003, May 5th. They show you Walter Sisulu dead, South African anti-apartheid hero who died on that day. But also there is more in the new vision for this morning. Make money in West management. They're giving you a picture of, you know, some of the opportunities coming along with the chain from coordinators, supervisors to consultants on how you can actually make money out of these Wests. But also more in the business opportunities right there. You can venture into the new vision this morning.
And taking you to the sports section of the Daily Monitor, we look at Rugumayo Eyes a title defense at Captain's Bell. Well, and also in the big picture there, flying mode, we're looking at the former Power Rally champion Hassan Alui and Enoch Olinga, who will be also looking to repeat, of course, the heroics of 2016 this weekend. It's going to be the weekend of rallies, so you're a fan, definitely you don't have to miss out. And that is rough test in offing steel. And again, work cut out. Ugandan drivers will be out to score points and must decide whether to actually fight, you know, with the big boys chasing African Rally Championship points or focus on the National Rally Championship. And in the UEFA Champions League, well, unrelenting. Liverpool ejects Villarreal 5-2 on aggregate to stay on course to becoming the first English side to complete the quadruple. Well, all that in the Daily Monitor Sports this morning.
Well, in the New Vision Sports, it must be safe. Or he's saying that the rookie driver Mark Luvega's Subaru, as he was undergoing a rigorous check yesterday, but he also says it must be safe. We are still talking about the Pearl of Africa Rally and the most prestigious event on the Federation of Motorsport Clubs in Uganda. That is, you know, the Shell V-Power, which is an event that is forthcoming. We have a lot of riders hailing up for it, and much more is already being looked at. But also in the New Vision Sport for this morning, Golden Boot Chase takes center stage, with the Vipers having already sealed the Uganda Premier League title following their 3-0 win. That is over Express FC. It looks like they could be looking at that Golden Boot. There are more details on that story, and you can get yourself a copy of the New Vision Sport, get much more of those details. Aqua aerobic water safety session on the next page of the sports. They're looking at what is in there, right trains, who is the trainer. They give you more details of how to get into that, as aqua aerobics has been loaded as a great tool into improving a person's heart health as well. The power of soccer, that is the Minister for Kampala City and Metropolitan Affairs, Minsa Kabanda, has also advised children to balance school and sport in order to become useful. There is more to that story in the New Vision Sport for this morning.
And in the Daily Nation this morning, Kalonzo's tough options. Did he talk himself out of a job? Well, of course, as far as political options are concerned, there is also that side of argument. And then tribunal to hear judge's graft case. Well, and still moving on to the education sector, confusion and congestion as Form 1s report to school. And coming in from also World Health Organization warns on obesity apps. And of course, millions of people are piling on the wait from food delivered to them via mobile food delivery applications. And now experts want the industry to be regulated. Well, because of all these health concerns. So yes, grab yourself the Daily Nation this morning and, you know, read all these stories. But also, taking you to our poll question, where we did ask from you, and we really wanted to hear from you, especially on how road accidents can be regulated or minimized in Uganda. And some of you have definitely come through with some feedback. And this one coming from you, Alan in Chankwanzi, saying to reduce accidents, number one, car owners should reduce much pressure on drivers. And number two, fighting corruption is a major factor. Traffic officers do ask for money. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for that feedback. And still coming in from another one, says, our roads are very narrow. Surely there is need to widen them a bit. And also there should always be serious inspection on these buses before they get on the road. Many operate under very, very poor states. Well, thank you so much for the feedback. Let it keep coming in. We'll be sharing it as Good Morning Uganda goes on. But to take you to the road this morning, I want to connect you all the way from Mawanda Road and to Kampala City. Well, it's already part of it, but as you join the main city, the traffic is very, very heavy. I should tell you, from Mawanda Road, the red stretch is dominating, So you need to be very steady, you need to be very cautious, you need to be careful, but also well prepared for that. Now, as you join from Mawanda Road and getting onto John Babiha Road, you can see still on the old Chira Road, the traffic is a little bit very crazy, and it's dominating most of these areas and most of the roads that should be connecting you to all these other shortcuts. John Babiha Road is not any different. Matter of fact, it's very intense, as highlighted by this maroon spot here, to show you that the traffic from way back is not as bad as you come through. But when you get to this spot, it's worse than any other spot. So yes, you need to plan accordingly if you use John Babiha Road on a daily. Now, John Babiha Road connects you to Yusuf Lule Road. Yusuf Lule Road is not also any different. The traffic is also a bit crazy over here, and also coming in from other junctions. And well, you need to plan accordingly, as you can also see the red spots over here, and also the traffic buildups. Now, the traffic buildups are especially for the people who are trying to leave the city center and headed towards the Mlago roundabout or other areas when you exit Yusuf Lule Road. However, if you're getting into the city center, well, the traffic here is very expected, so you need to plan accordingly. However, for the rest of that Yusuf Lule Road, at least before you connect to the Nile Avenue roundabout, it should be very free for you to navigate, because that is, of course, if you're leaving or if you're entering the city center. However, as you get closer to Nile Avenue, you need to expect some traffic here, as shown by this red stretch over here. Nile Avenue is quite a leeway for you, and it would be an ideal shortcut for you to use as you're joining the city center. So if you're coming in from all those areas, you need to plan accordingly. You're using Old Chira Road, you're using Mawanda Road, you're using Yusuf Lule Road, John Babiha Road. All these roads are very heavy with traffic this morning. So if you have an alternative, this would be the ideal moment for you to put it to use. And again, like we know, road accidents are really trying to get onto an increase in Uganda. So you need to be a very careful driver. You need to be aware of all other road users, and, you know, be able to think for them. Do not assume that they know it all. Be the responsible one on the road, so that people are healthy and they're also alive and spared as well. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I now officially hand you over to Mollen to give you more coming in from the climate and climate news, and also give you the weather forecast this Thursday morning. I am Philomena Mastiko. Have a great and wonderful Thursday morning.
Well, thank you very much, Philomena. We'll take it off from still what is making headlines in the weather and climate news. We have seen more of the evacuations that are being done in New Mexico, and so far the levels are only going high. We're looking at more numbers of people evacuating their homes, and at this point there has been a lot of state intervention. We did see yesterday that the President of the United States, Joe Biden, did declare this area as a disaster risk area and ordered for state intervention in making sure that people are, being evacuated well and provided for. So this has been ongoing for the last 2 weeks. There has been a wildfire. It did start at a smaller level, but then as time went by, the wildfires kept, raging across the area. And of course, this has been fueled in by the long drought that has been over the area. Now, more than 15,000 homes could be threatened over the next 3 days as well. That is still looked at as the biggest wildfire, dubbed the Gulf Kenyan fires in the New Mexico. Now, they continue to grow, according to a public information officer from the Southwest Incident Management Team. They're saying that this could actually be going in the next 3 days, and this is why they are still advocating for more and more of this evacuation. Now, this includes the city of Las Vegas, New Mexico, which is about 85 miles northeast of the area, and surrounding communities in San Miguel as well, Mora counties. That is according to the state officials right there. Also, 5 fires are actually active, that is burning throughout these areas of New Mexico as well. Now, Las Vegas, even the evacuations did start 2 days before, and we have seen at least more of the reports coming through indicating that there are still more of the diversions that are being done to make sure that the fire is contained. We do know that at least 30% of the fires have been contained, so that leaves 70% still on the rampage, and that is a huge threat to the area. But President Joe Biden did declare a disaster, approve a disaster declaration for parts of the drought-patched New Mexico that have been hit by these wildfires, and has also ordered for federal aid that it should be made available, that is by the White House and of course the state of New Mexico, to make sure that people are being evacuated and also recovery is being planned. Now we know that the wildfires across the USA have been ongoing, and year per year we do see wildfires, but what is really making headlines and making this separate from what has been happening is that it is taking on larger areas and threatening big cities like Las Vegas, of course. And of course, also taking in the fact that it has taken in a longer time, and that is what is posing a risk. And scientists are already getting into a relation of drought being there, and of course now fueling into more wildfires. The IPCC did come out at the beginning of the year when they were giving out the assessment report, saying that with the climate-related events, we could be looking at more wildfires, we could be looking at more drought cases, and I think this is evident that we're already there. This is no longer for us to wait until 2030 to be experiencing some of those, because the threshold that was given by then was maybe by 2030, or even looking at 2050, could be looking at much more of these events. But I will tell you one thing, we're already living in what has been projected as the future. So this is why most of these reports that come out from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and also from the UN, the reports that come out from the World Meteorological Organizations are equally important, because even what they're highlighting as something that is supposed to happen in the future is already happening now. So I say there is a lot to be done when it comes to climate crisis. And I think much of what is happening to the US is what is prompting now their efforts towards clean energy. We did see a surge when a lot of these countries stopped depending on the natural gas from Russia, with countries like, mostly Germany taking into a lot of coal now exploration. Also, the US actually was looking into the possibilities of venturing into coal. But I think with the pressure that was coming in from the scientists, and of course their commitment to the climate change policies, and of course the Glasgow Pact, they couldn't do it. And right now, what the good news that is coming through is that at least they have approved, the Senate has approved more of the taxation, and more money is issued into green energy. And most of what is looked at is the wind energy. That means they will be putting more turbines to look into what can be done to boost the energy across the US. And so far, we do know that at least the Senate did meet to review the tax credits for clean energy initiatives as part of the broader legislature to boost the US energy independence and also address climate change, as the lawmakers were putting it. Well, that is just one solution to that. Because these are countries, when you talk about the US, this is a country that can afford putting wind turbines and generating wind energy, versus us who are living in developing countries. It's going to be hard for you to put a lot of money into such facilities, but they can afford. Why look for now the fossil fuels, or going back to coal exploration, which was clearly banned in the Glasgow Pact? Because when we were at COP26, the November climate conference in Glasgow, one thing that did come out on top was that states or governments should be looking to avoid coal exploration. And this is just what should be done. Otherwise, we could be looking at much more of these events. And if they are affecting such a country, then I think it's a good move to look into more of the renewable energies. And we could also borrow a leaf from there, because at least there is what we can afford. While we might not afford going into the wind energy or the big facilities, at least we do have solar energy that is quite affordable. We've seen a lot of countries in Africa putting up solar plants, and they could supply the entire city, like Kampala. This is something that can be done, and we might also have to be looking into possibilities of doing that. Otherwise, we're still going to be looking into much more of extreme weather events that are related to climate change. Yet there are actions in plan, yet there are solutions in plan that can be done. Well, but away from that, we also want to take a look into the weather that is happening across the country for this morning, and we'll be tapping in from our satellites, that is from UMISAT over Uganda. Now, well, looks like it's quite a clear morning compared to yesterday, where we did start off with quite a bit of rain. It looks like today is quite promising. We're looking at a very dry weather across the Karamoja region, where you see the open grey colors. That is indicating sunny skies over there. That is also across the eastern part of the country. country, Soroti, Amuria, looking into mostly a sunny morning across Gulu. We do have a few clouds that are developing that is mostly around parts of southwestern Uganda, but we also have areas within Arua and towards parts of central that are having mostly cloudy conditions. Now there is a rainy system that is starting off from the Lake Victoria Basin towards the western area, but looks like that is bringing in a few rains towards the western part of Uganda, that is mostly southwestern. You also have parts of Masaka right now dealing with most of those spills of rains. That is also coming across. But it looks like that system is moving westwards and could be bringing us a few rains across parts of southwestern Mbarara right there, Bushenyi. You can brace yourselves up for a little bit of rains that could come your way as the morning progresses. We do have certain rainy systems that are also starting to develop across parts of Lake Albert, and that could be progressing into a little bit of cloudy conditions across midwestern areas of Hoima, Masindi, Fort Portal, Doroko. That is mainly bringing in a little bit of clouds, but also that might clear as the morning progresses. We do expect more rains though, but that will be still across the western part of the country mostly, and the southern area where we're seeing at least more of the clouds starting to develop even right now as we speak. So it looks like it's quite a clear day over there for this morning, but the afternoon will be bringing in much more of what is anticipated to be quite a rainy day, because we're still ongoing with the rainy season. We are reaching the peak right now. But as we look into ending May, that means we are also about to start the dry season for most parts of the country, because June and July is usually characterized by dry spells across most areas. So this is the time where you take advantage of the rains that you have. If you have any pending planting that you need to do, especially people planting trees, the most important time for you to need the rains is when you're actually at that basis of planting. But trees can withstand even dry spells. But again, I would recommend doing water harvesting, because rains are going to reduce as we head towards the dry season. So it's a perfect time for you to think about your options if you want to have your gardens, keep with most of that water. And also, when you do water harvesting, it helps with the irrigation even on dry days. So that would be important for you to plan out for. Well, I'll leave you at that, but I'm also planning for my day. And guess what? I do have a good designer who makes sure I look smart every morning, and I want to give out a shout out to Alvin Clever. He does dress me up, and for this Thursday with this leather coming up really nice. It's quite a cold morning, so I say the weather is perfect for me to dress up this way. But you can also get yourself, when you're part of some of these clothings from Alvin Clever. He is at Arua Park Plaza, that is floor 2 shop number F2637. You can get him on his social media platforms as well. That is at Alvin Clever. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course TikTok. You can get to him and get more of your clothing to suit the weather, but also for you to look smart. We're heading into the weekend, so that will be ideal for you. Well, we do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here to take you through that, and then later on, Ruben will also be giving you some of the sports highlights. We do know that Liverpool is making history. And, well, I'm smiling, but I don't want to, make people feel bad, people like the Arsenals and Manchester United. But guess what? I'll leave it at that, and Ruben will give you much more of the highlights. But also later on, we do have Good Morning Uganda extra that will be coming your way. Do look us up. The hashtag on social media is #UBCGMU. My name is Mollen Kenyena. I want to wish you a lovely morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Even with my grandson, a doctor at my side, I struggled to get the help I needed. But he saw something that day. He began to work day and night. He wouldn't quit, even when people said no. He wouldn't stop fighting. He knew something had to change. And his vision was bigger than anyone could imagine. He made it possible to receive quality medical services anywhere in Uganda by simply using a phone.
This is the story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Need to send money to a loved one but you don't have enough on your phone? Have you run out of fuel but you don't have enough money? Do you want to pay for yaka or water but have insufficient funds? Or do you want to shop but you don't have enough money? Don't worry, get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial *165*5*3# to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again, and thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. It is Good Morning Uganda agenda. Now in this segment, we always have a guest in studios, and you're also able to communicate to us regarding the topic of the day through our various social media platforms, but also our WhatsApp number, where you can send a direct SMS or a WhatsApp message, and I read them out and the guest responds to them. Once again, I'm Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. It's exactly 3 minutes past 8 a.m. I know you could be heading to work, you could be already in your office, still you can still watch us on our YouTube channel. We're always live. You can rewind, you can forward, but you do not miss the program, because our main role here is to ensure we keep you updated with what is happening locally and internationally. Yesterday was a Black Wednesday for Uganda, where we saw about 26 lives that perished in road accidents. 2 were in western Uganda and 1 in the eastern part of Uganda. One involved a link bus where the driver had issues and failed to negotiate a corner there, drilling off the road. The other, a taxi, was overtaking and ended up a head-on collision with a saloon car. In all these, lives were lost. And another was in Chegwegwa, where about 16 were seriously injured. Now, joining me on set this morning, the traffic commandant for Kampala Metropolitan, that is Sarongo Rogers Kauma Nsereko. You're most welcome to our studios this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Kirabo, and good morning, viewers.
First, I want to begin by thanking you for the good work, at least in Kampala Metropolitan, regarding integrity of police officers. I must say there's been a shift. Sometimes, even if someone feels they want to, at least there's politeness. One can stop you and say, gentlemen, where are you going? I'm rushing. Well, I'm also here looking for lunch. Anything I welcome.
Wow.
You know, like, okay. At least I've not made no sense looking at the tires, finding a fault even why it is and consuming time. You say, I don't have, oh, you can't go. But next time, like that. So, and also that traditional of extortion is now going away. Still there's room for improvement, but I must commend your team
thank you.
For the good work being done there. Now, when we talk about what happened yesterday, it's very unfortunate.
Very absurd.
Very absurd.
Very absurd.
We know it's not within Kampala Metropolitan, but still it is traffic, and we can discuss this. Now, Ugandans want to know, why are we having persistent increasing rates of accident? When we had Eid and Labor Day, 24 lives, 2 days. When we had Easter, about 60 plus lives, accidents. Why is this persistent?
Well, let me start by sending my condolences to those people who lost their beloved ones in those tragic accidents. I felt so sad about the Link bus accident. It's not that I didn't feel sad about others, but Link is a company that I've related well with for a long time. I got to interact with them when I was regional traffic officer in Rwenzori East and Rwenzori West. Rwenzori East in Kasese and Rwenzori West in Fort Portal. And it was the vessel I used to travel to those places. And the bus that got an accident is one of the new buses they acquired. I think it is around 4 years old, if I'm not mistaken, because when that fleet came of Link buses, I was still working in Rwenzori. And I used to board those buses when I would fly, maybe when I come over the weekend and then going back, I used to use those buses. So I felt so bad. I even watched where I used to sit in that picture that made rounds on social media. I used to see where I used to sit, and someone was almost out of the window in this position. So for those people of Link Bus Company, I condole with you, but our life has to go on, unfortunately. Now, for accidents happening, yes, you are right. It is an alarming situation, I must say, because in just a few days, you hear, in a space of a week, you hear 300 people involved in accidents. Seriously? 300 in a week? It is just unacceptable. So, what am I calling for? Me as a traffic officer, and even other responsible Ugandans, because I believe many are really responsible people. And I hear so many arguments that, oh, people don't know the road rules and laws and what, but I beg to differ. Because if you are driving at a very fast speed, you will know that if anything surprises you ahead of you, the reaction time won't be ample for you to control the vehicle. So why do you need to drive or ride very fast? People don't give respect to the road language. Because I tell people all the time that the road speaks to you. It does speak to you. There are road signs, there are road markings. There are markings that demand that you don't overtake at such a point, but people do otherwise.
They don't consider.
They don't consider all those communications on the road. There are roads that indicate please slow down, maybe a steep slope, slow down. What do? Or maybe they indicate that this is a slippery road on a rainy day, please slow down. What do? They cruise, pass through very fast. So they end up rolling their vehicles. And police can't be everywhere, because I hear people saying, oh, police is not doing enough. Police, what do you expect police to do? Is it supposed to be dotted at every point to see that you keep in line. We can't do that.
But
at the end of the day, it is personal responsibility. Safety begins with you, not with the police. It begins with you. Drive with safe speeds. Respect the road signage and language and markings, because all these are communications to you for safety.
Well, Afande, the public, when such accidents happen, the first blame is casted on police.
Absolutely.
For example, it is very unfortunate, the link driver. When eyewitnesses and preliminary investigations show that he failed to negotiate a corner, it is very clear he was overspeeding. Because that is when you try, but because of the speed, you can't negotiate that corner.
And the upside part of that story is that he also died, because now our investigations are limited by the death of that driver, because he would have given us an insight on what happened. Sometimes we may blame speed and DMC situation of the vehicle or something, yet actually maybe he was dozing on the steering wheel. You get my point? But actually most of those truck drivers and bus drivers, the accidents they cause are because of fatigue. They drive long distances, they don't rest, and then they get back on the wheel, and then they force themselves to drive. Along the way they are drowsy, they doze on the steering wheel, and they roll the vehicles. But if they survive, they won't mention that I was dozing. No, they will blame the vehicle. The vehicle refused to brake, whereas not. You get my point? So it is so many factors. That's why in some developed countries now, they have a technology they use to beckon the driver to stay alert. If a driver dozes on the steering wheel, the alarm will go on in the cabin to alert you that, man, you better wake up, or you park and rest. That technology is there in developed countries now, because fatigue contributes a lot to traffic accidents. But you won't be able to determine that actually this guy was drowsy on the steering wheel.
Police once had a mechanism of ensuring that these drivers don't make return journeys, most of distance drivers. How effective is this? Are you still implementing it? I last used public transport some years back, but where they would stop, then you look into the book, because
it is still happening, Mr. Kirabo. We have checkpoints along major highways, and those checkpoints are purposeful for the enforcement of the route chart, because actually it is a measure to try to control that issue of fatigue. Because if you are making a very long journey, Kisoro, Arua, Bwera, it is very hard for you to drive that long journey and then come back on the same bus on the same day. So that's why they introduced the route chart. Because if a driver passes at 10 in the morning, you are not expected back that day. You are expected back the next day. So you will present your route chart at the checkpoint, and then we shall know, oh, it is Mr. Kirabo who's supposed to pass here at this time. So is it Kirabo on the bus? Yes, it is Kirabo on the bus. Is he in the right timings that he's supposed to pass this checkpoint? Yes, he is. Then we clear you, and then you proceed with your journey. We don't expect Kirabo to come back that day. If it is to come back, it is supposed to be another driver on the bus, not Kirabo. You get my point. So the enforcement is still there, and it is going on.
Then many of these accidents have an issue with overspeeding. I see police officers with speed guns on these highways. But one thing that beats my understanding is this car can overtake you at a terrific speed. It is stopped. The police detect using the gun, it's stopped. Then you drive off. A few kilometers, the same car passes you at another Terrific
now
speed.
That's where I mentioned.
How do you best explain that?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I said in the very first instance, one of the very first statements I made is that you don't expect police to be everywhere to enforce. Because most people behave when police is there. Once they pass the checkpoint where police is, they go back to their misbehavior. So now what do you want police to do? Why don't you take full responsibility of your actions? If you die in an accident because of negligence and rushing and carelessness, you will die. We shall come with our spades and whatever and pick you up. And we shall deliver you to the mortuary.
But the biggest question then would be the role of police. We know there are laws. We know there are people who will be reckless. We know there are people who will still break the law. So you have the coercive forces. You have the traffic police for the roads. So how do you best explain? Are the laws weak? What do they say? Because some of these offenses that occur, people will tell you, but that bus was stopped at such a checkpoint. The driver was cautioned. Then again, driver was cautioned. Is the law weak for you to enforce some of these things?
It is not actually weak. We have one of the best laws, I think, in the Traffic and Road Safety Act.
Is it Chintu Chidogo?
It could be. I won't say no, but majorly, it is in discipline of our drivers. You can't blame Chintu Chidogo on accidents. You get my point. If you are indisciplined and you think that you are going to bribe your way through the whole route and then you end up dying, it goes back to integrity and indiscipline.
I would expect such a driver that the vehicle has been impounded, taken to police. This the inconvenience this person would go through.
But we do. We do. We take people to courts. We issue tickets. Do you know how much money we make in errant drivers? It's a lot of money. But it is a cocktail of enforcement. A cocktail. We take people to court depending on their demeanor. Then we issue tickets, again, depending on the demeanor of the driver. We caution them, say, you know what, don't do this next time, otherwise we're going to attract a penalty for yourself. We do all these things. But I mean, you can't be seen, you know, you can't be everywhere. That's my point. You can't be everywhere.
We accept, yes, your view, but also we know that you have a mandate to do, however thin you are on ground. And the question is, have you delivered them to the expectations of Ugandans, Mr. Kauma?
We are delivering on a daily. On a daily. We are doing the best we can. We get very embarrassed to see these statistics. They are really embarrassing. And I know, okay, accidents are a challenge the world over because I'm forgetting the statistics in the US, but they have almost 300 million cars on their roads in the US. 300 million cars. And then I'm forgetting that statistic, I wish I could remember, but they lose so many people on their roads a year. But I wish I could get, next time I chance on getting that information again, I will deliver that to you.
Let's look at some of the measures that were or could act as aids, even where the police officers are not. At one time, we had a talk of speed governors. At one time, we had a talk of seat belts. Now, when these come and go, the public is left not understanding. Yesterday, I was speaking to someone who told me, Obani yali yaleta ebikonteyina bya CP kati ekyo kikonteyina yatunda ne ziggwawo. That's what I mean. What was in the speed governor deal? Now that one sold and never bivaako. Because you lack consistency in enforcing these things.
Well, I also grew up in an era when they were enforcing the speed limit, especially on those public service vehicles, buses and lorries. How that died out, I have no idea myself. For the seatbelts, we are still enforcing the use of seatbelt. We are enforcing and we're giving penalties if we find you not putting on a seatbelt.
That is for private cars?
Even public service vehicles, if you are seated in the front, driver and co-driver, you're supposed to put on a seatbelt. Of course, most of them don't have seatbelts in the back. And I remember when I was growing up, the issue of seatbelts, when they tried to enforce seatbelts in the public service vehicles, those seatbelts were substandard. I think people would get belts from bags or something, and then they find ways of fixing them in the cars. Then some of them wouldn't lock. Then some of them would be very dirty. You can't put it over your white shirt, you know. So many issues came up on the issue of seatbelts at the time when I was growing up. But I think along the way, I believe measures will come up to try to improve the situation.
Let's look at the traffic laws in Uganda. Do you think they're deterrent enough for people who are habitual violators? Because there are those we know, for them, they will cruise at any speed. You find one bus company, I don't want to mention names, but almost every year it must have an accident.
Yes.
They ride off one or two, they buy new. You know that company is that. There are people, you know, that this driver, they will tell you, survived this accident, the other accident. They're all acts of recklessness. And I was listening to one of the regional traffic police person where I said, this accident is a result of reckless or careless driving. So, what do our laws say? Can we depend on them? People talk about the express penalty. For me, is something I find very weak.
Okay.
Because even the time you have to pay, you know, you can drive your car and have 2-3 tickets. You're given almost more than even 2 weeks to pay it.
Yeah, it used to be like that, but now they're revising the Traffic and Road Safety Act, and they're revising some of these laws because the old laws were not biting enough. The fines are going to be revised, especially if you drive carelessly and then you cause death to people. The fines are going to be biting enough. And yeah, the Traffic and Road Safety Act is so many laws are being implemented, including these people who put these swiveling lights and then they keep right, and then
everyone is a VIP.
Yeah. Then the laws on speed are also being modernized by the Ministry of Works and Transport. So it is a gradual process, but it is taking place, because I think the old penalties were not biting enough. And then also the duration of paying EPS has been revised from 28 days to 4 days. You need to have paid your ticket within 4 days. So all those are coming up. There are revisions that are being undertaken, and they are going to be implemented to see that at least some discipline is realized in our drivers.
Now, this also brings me to respect to police officers, traffic in particular. Afande, we can discuss, because they're the gatekeepers. But day by day, it seems that the respect to these officers, I've seen many of them trying to carry out their work, and what next is, you'll get an ono kusimu.
Yeah.
It's very common. Everyone who is stopped has someone they can call.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, these people end up causing accidents, or they're not fit to be on the road. I don't see this apply. Maybe Amazon, Amisho, or they're doing anything and speak to this person. Even these other, they come to arrest a person, you know, and then you think you're going to make phone calls. Why specifically traffic?
I think it goes back to impunity again, and we get those cases quite a lot. You get an errant driver, say most especially these ones who are keeping right these days, and when you stop them there, first of all, they first look at you like you're rubbish. I mean, what can you do? You know, that kind of attitude. And indeed, sometimes they are the well-to-do people, the well-connected, the who's who in this country. Yeah, they're the ones you find doing such things. And then they have even taken it a notch further. They will flash guns at us. You get my point? You've seen cases where they are shooting traffic officers. Okay. So what does this call for?
Of late, there is a new style of army jackets.
Yeah.
Driving.
Yeah.
So it's an indicator I am.
Absolutely. Even a driver of an army officer
has a jacket on.
Has a jacket on a private vehicle, not necessarily an army car. And we get all these cases, and it is really absurd, because it is like they want to say that we are living in a lawless country and everyone can wake up and do whatever they want, which is not the case. But I can assure the public that we are doing the best we can. Those we can engage with, engage at a higher level, we engage at bigger offices that take such people. If we manage to identify that this car is for such and such an institution or such and such a company, we engage the management. And the good thing is that the public has picked a lot of interest in these indisciplinados. They take pictures. They use their phones. They record what is happening on the road, and then it circulates. So once we get this, because these the parastatal cars, most of these institutions have, because it is even easy to get them. It's a matter of contacting revenue, and then we say we want to know this number plate, who owns it? They will tell us, no, those are cars for such and such a ministry. Those are cars for such and such a parastatal. So it is very easy to get them. So if we know that the car is maybe for a director, because again, you have to use wisdom. You don't have to just go in full force, because you engage the institution that, yeah, this director here was in such and such a vehicle and they did ABCD. Please, we need action taken. So at this level, this is what we do for now. However, I still call upon our dear big men of this country to please be disciplined on the road. Keep in your lane. If your time bad, you need to program yourself so well. You know that I have to be maybe at this station or at this office at such and such a time. Wake up. You told me to be here at this program at 8. But I know I have a challenge of jam from my home. So I program myself in good time so that I don't come rushing in the jam. And yet I have a police vehicle. It has a headlight on. You know, it has a siren on. But I don't use them. And I drive safely to this place. So what is so hard for you to program yourself well so that you keep in the time? We've seen big, even I think you've seen your WhatsApp messages. We've seen big men, generals, who keep in their lane.
Very humble.
No matter how much the traffic is, they will keep in their lane and be quiet and read their paper as they are sailing through the traffic slowly. But these wannabes who have just been given some little responsibilities, some little, they are everywhere and bulldozing everyone off the road. It is no, it's not good.
Then that was said, I also want us to look at the element of corruption.
Yes.
Within the traffic department, where many people are saying it's one of the causes. It could not be the leading, but one of the causes of these increasing accidents. Because people know you just have to have a few coins on you, and you saw through. If you're driving a DMC, simple, they stop you, move out of the car, run to the officer. I'm sorry, I don't have tires, but I'm rushing. My boss wants the car. Fold something, gained. Bribe your way through. Maybe until God says enough is enough. You can't brake. At the end of that day, you overturn the vehicle.
Yes.
Many have even told that traffic zinga karukumi biri ngoitamu mutwalo kutuse Kampala. So meaning that it's even now they take little. One told me, no, when you take a lot of money from someone, that's when they will call. But you are there, be sure you get 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, get 30, 20 people. How much do you have? For a person who feel comfortable giving you a 5,000 note and will not even have to raise an alarm.
Yeah.
So this element of corruption in this institution, specifically the traffic department, how are you handling it?
Yes, corruption has been a song that has been sung like forever. And today it is still on. And it is growing so boring, well, for me. Because When it comes to corruption, of course, it takes two to tango. You get my point. And if you are, and most times, let me mention, it is the driver who initiates the process of corruption. It is not the traffic officer.
That is true.
When someone beckons you to stop, and then the first thing you do is to pull out a wallet. And then flash all these bundles in your wallet to the traffic officer. It is also it is like a bait. You know what they call a bait? So why are you, attracting the officer to the money? Because indeed the officer, maybe he doesn't have a coin. Maybe he left home without anything at home. Yeah? So it is also imperative on the driver not to corrupt our traffic officers. Let the process take its course. You are beckoned to stop. You have committed an offense. Abide by what the traffic officer tells you. If he demands for money, that give me money and I let you go, it is different. And those are the cases I'm interested in. Seka woman said, demanded for money to do ABCD for me. There I will understand. But where it is you who pulls out the money, and then you give the officer, and then he lets you go, and then tomorrow you say, traffic police is corrupt. Hello. No, I don't believe that. So if the traffic officer demands that you give me money so that I let you off the hook, that is different. But where you bring your 10,000, you give the officer, he picks it and you say, oh, police is corrupt. You are the one who's corrupt, and you initiated, and you are also equally liable.
Very interesting there, but of course there is one who is vulnerable, although both are benefiting. One is getting the money, one is being let off.
And you are all committing an offense.
And you're all committing an offense. So better, if you're talking about integrity in the force, it takes two sides. Let's all be corrupt-free people. And how do you do that? Ensure you have all it takes for you to be safe on the road, for you to be fit on the road.
Absolutely.
If you're stopped, you have everything. The car is in good mechanical condition, you have your driving license, you're sober, you're not smelling booze or what, then the traffic officer will just tell you, because I've witnessed it, where you're stopped and tells you, okay, please, you can't go.
Absolutely.
And please, have a polite reply.
Yes.
No, you can't go. Okay, your vehicle is okay, let me see your permit. Oh, sir. It was just a stop check. Yeah. You can continue.
Absolutely.
And there you go, no reason for bribing, but you slept in a bar. You also know you're already guilty as convicted. So what you do is pay that penny. Although we still also say, yes, the police should be able to resist those bribes, Mr. Anselm.
And many resist, by the way.
Should be able to say no.
Come on, many resist bribes. Many resist. Yes. It is just a few bad apples, but many don't pick the money. Especially people even, there's a time they used to just throw money to traffic. Someone does it, so especially those PSVs, the taxis. They would just pick the money, throw it through the window, and then they continue. And then you see a traffic officer going down and picking it. How embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
How embarrassing.
Well, we are still looking at the topic of the day, which is raising concerns of road carnage in Uganda. Yesterday it was a Black Wednesday, where we lost about 26 people in two separate accidents in Western Uganda and of course in the Eastern. We continue to pray for their families, that may the good Lord strengthen them through this trying moment. Death by an accident is really a shock. But also, Mr. Anseleko, when we talk about accidents, I don't want to agree that most of what we have in Uganda are accidents. Because for me, I believe an accident should be an act of God, maybe. I'm trying to, not when I leave home and I've told my wife, this car has braking problems.
And then you continue to drive it.
But my tires, not when I'm real tired, and I'm like, today I'm so fatigued to be on the behind wheels. Not when I'm drunk. Then you tell me I've had an accident. It was foreseen. There were 99 plus chances
that I could
have this accident.
Absolutely.
People here will tell you, And you're asking, about them meaning it had a brake issues? And now you're telling us eventually, a ganyo siba.
Yes.
And we categorize them as accidents.
Now, that is the thing I mentioned earlier, that safety begins with you. Indeed, there are people who continue to drive, yet they know they have a certain fault on their vehicle. That, then that kwata mukatono, after a certain period, it won't quarter at all. Eh? So as you mentioned, some people insist on driving dangerous vehicles in dangerous mechanical condition. So it is indeed a responsibility of you, the driver, to consider safety first for yourself and for others, because sometimes it can fail to brake, you survive, but you end up knocking so many other people dead on the road. So it is your responsibility to ensure that you keep yourself safe and others.
Let's also look at who qualifies to be on the road. By Uganda's traffic guidelines, what qualifies you to be on the road is having a driving license. But always there are two factors that beat my understanding. I want you to explain. One, we have people who have driving licenses. They have never gone to any driving school. When I was in driving school, I was told basics before I start a car. Early in the morning, what I have to check, the oil, the brakes, and all this. And actually, my instructor told me, if you do not have time, rather use public means. If you can't check those basics, the water levels, because it can hit along the way, all those basics. Today, I see many people waking up, setting off. Two, when people are moving from one class to another class. First is how they have driving permits, yet they have never attended any driving or class. Then two, when one is moving from one particular driving class to another class, a person has had a driving license for maybe 5 years. Tavuze motoka, he has it in his wallet. Then you hear, I'm going for another class of driving. If he was driving these small vehicles, now it tells you I can drive now a bigger vehicle. At this level, I can drive a matatu.
Yes.
At this level, I can drive a bus.
Yes.
But this creature last drove a Rau. So these two, how do you address them?
Yes, I know what you're saying exactly. But yeah, some people get permits, indeed, as you mentioned. And maybe they've never driven, maybe they've never been to the driving school. Yes, it happens. But what causes that? Isn't it corruption again? Then, so that is why you see corruption is such a bad thing. Because how can you now get someone a permit if they've never driven a vehicle? How does that happen? Where did they go for the tests? You get my point. Because before you are given a permit, you are supposed to go to the IOV. You are supposed to be tested driving. How do you drive? How do you park? How do you reverse? How do you reverse park? You know? So all these are processes that are carried out at the IOV's office. So for classes, to get another class, again, it is the work of the IOV. You should have driven at a certain, for a certain period of time, a small car. Then if you want to advance to a bigger car, you are supposed to go back to the IOV, pay the required fees, and then you are tested in that category of vehicle that you want to drive. And then if you pass, you are given a certificate of competence, and then you can go and attain that other class. If you want to upgrade to a bigger class other than that one, again, it is the same process. So that's how you are supposed to get those classes. One step at a time. You don't just overlap. So that happens. And what was your other question?
Yes, that it was about the class issue.
Yes, yeah.
Really explain.
You if you want to drive a bus, you have to be at a certain age. You should have driven for such a period of that information IOV has. The next time, I think it would be important that you invite an IOV here, and then he takes you through that process of upgrading to a certain other level of class.
I wish those can be corrected. Otherwise, I've seen many people, the first time he was a conductor. The next is the one driving.
But if it is a conductor and he goes through the process, he goes to be tested. And
Here, they don't go through the process.
No, how sure are you? How sure are you? How sure are you? They could be conductors, they learn on job maybe, and then they say, okay, now maybe I'm fit to drive this taxi, and then they go to the IOV, they are tested, and they pass.
As a traffic commander for Kampala Metropolitan, I know you know what I'm talking about. That I'm very sure of. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, but there are cases who go through the right process.
Yes, yes, they are.
They are there. Yes.
You're moving, things happen in Uganda. You're moving around and you hear this advertising, we help you get a driving permit. I mean, this is lawlessness.
Well, there are people, I would say there are people who I think don't like to they feel they're inconvenienced to go through the process, and then they have the third parties. If the third party, it can work for you to get a permit, but when the time for the test comes, he says, Mr. Kirabo, you're supposed to go to Naguru for a test. Today's your appointment. There's nothing wrong with that.
Unfortunately, third parties don't do that here in Uganda. They make it so easy, so quick, so fast for you to get any document you want, however dangerous it may be. So it's always important for you to go through the right channels, because at the end of the day, you're only fit to be on the road. Yet when you go through these shortcuts, you may end up causing accidents and injuring many people. Well, Mr. Nseleko, let me have your final remarks regarding Ugandans and how best we can ensure reduce on this rate of these accidents happening in our country.
Yes, thank you, moderator, and especially for this opportunity to talk to the public. Fellow Ugandans, I'm calling upon you, especially our road users, because everyone on the road is important. The driver, the pedestrian, the motorcycle rider, the bicycle rider, everyone on road is as important. So please, if you're using your automobile, make sure that you, first of all, that you are safe. And then secondly, that other road users are safe. Because the trend we are taking is really absurd, and we need to reverse the status quo. We need to reverse for the betterment so that we develop this country together without losing people who would have been of very important value to this country. And I thank you.
Before I let you go, there is one of our ardent viewers who has sent in a message and told me, please ask Mr. Nseleko about border operations. Tulibubi tufa.
Yes, border operations are on, but as you see, we are as, what term can I use? We are as bothered as you are over borders. There's a lot of indiscipline. There's a lot of borders, you know, knocking, scratching people's cars, dropping people down and then leaving them there for dead. And then for them, they just ride away. Why? Because they don't have documents. Someone lands a border today, and then the next day they're ferrying people in the city and everywhere. So that problem, I believe, at a higher level is being discussed. And at a certain time T, you will get to see, I think, what will come out. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Nseleko Rogers Kauma, for having phone time this morning and being part of this show. It is very important that you're your first line of security. Either you're a passenger or you're driving that vessel. It all begins with you before it goes to the police.
Yes.
Ensure the vehicle you're driving is good mechanical condition, you're fit, you're sober to be on the road. And then the passengers, please, the fact that you're using public transport does not take away the right you have.
Yes.
Have numbers of police officers where you can call and tell them this guy is over speeding.
By the way, I need to leave that number also on there.
This guy is over speeding. Where you can report, But most of the times you think you surrender your rights to a person who is driving you, yet you have paid, taking you to some destination. A bus is cruising at a terrific speed and you're all silent, just whispering to each other, this man will kill us. Please, police has numbers, use them, report bad driving. Some companies even have numbers on their vehicles. Report bad driving. Copy those. Make sure you have a way you can control the person behind the wheels that is driving you. I've done it, I've seen it, it works. His team, the Uganda Police Traffic Department, are very swift when they get information of overspeeding or a vehicle in dangerous mechanical condition. I'll leave you with Ruben. He's ready to take you through the sports updates, and till tomorrow, God willing. Stay safe.